Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu Nityaṁ bhāgavata-sevayā. Bhagavati uttamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtake. Aradhayo bhagavan vrajeshatanayas tadhama brindavanam. Ramya kachitupasana vrajavadho vargena va kalpita. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam pramanamamalam prema-pumartho mahan. Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu matamidam tatradharana prapara. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarini. Jai Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear worshipful devotees, thank you so much for taking out your valuable time to read and hear Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Thank you, Baldev Seva Prabhu, Raghu Prabhu, Devaki Devi Mataji, Philip Lenar Prabhu, Vijaya Mataji, and Sudhir Prabhu. Thank you so much for your dedication and daily reading of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So we are reading Canto 10, and also to those who hear later on YouTube or while they can't make it to the in live class, but there are a lot of devotees after the end of the class they hear, or next day they hear. So I know one devotee who hears and helps in a lot of services, also Democracy Mataji. So thank you to all the others who are hearing on YouTube at a later point also. So we are reading Canto 10, Chapter 20, entitled The Rainy Season in the Autumn in Vrindavan. And we have covered till text number 33 here. So today, which is 12th of April, Wednesday, I'm sorry, it's Wednesday. We're going to read from text 34. Yom no babriham bhutas sabalyam bhuva pankam apamalam sharajahara shraminam Krishne bhaktir yatha shubham. Translation and purport by Abhijnana Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrī Prabhupada ki jai. Translation purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, Abhijnana Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Śrī Prabhupada ki jai, Śrī Prabhupada, wonderful disciples ki jai. Autumn cleared the sky of clouds. Let the animals get out of their crowded living conditions, cleaned the earth of its covering of mud, and purified the water of contamination. In the same way, that loving service rendered to Lord Krishna frees the members of the four spiritual orders from their respective troubles. Purport: every human being must perform the prescribed duties corresponding to one of the four spiritual orders of life. The divisions are celibate, student life, brahmacharya, married life, grihastha, number 3, retired life or vanaprastha, number 4, renounced life or sannyas. A brahmachari must perform many menial duties according to his during his student life. But as he becomes advanced in the loving service of Krishna, his superiors recognize his spiritual status and elevate him to higher studies. The innumerable obligations performed on behalf of wife and children constantly harass a householder. But as he becomes advanced in the loving service to Krishna, he is automatically elevated by the laws of the nature to more enjoyable spiritual occupations, and he somehow minimizes material duties. Those in the vanaprastha or retired order of life also perform many duties, and these can also be replaced by ecstatic, loving service to Krishna. Similarly, renounced life has many natural difficulties, not the least of which is that sannyasis or renounced men are inclined to meditate on the impersonal aspect of the absolute truth. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, klesho diktaras tesham avyakta sakta chetasam. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested impersonal feature of the Lord, advancement is exceedingly painful. But as soon as a sannyasi takes to the preaching the glories of Krishna in every town and village, his life becomes a blissful sequence of beautiful spiritual realizations. In the autumn season, the sky returns to its natural blue color. The vanishing of the clouds is like the vanishing of the troublesome duties in brahmachari life. Just after summer comes the rainy season, when the animals sometimes become disturbed by the torrential storms and thus huddled together. But the autumn season signals a time for the animals to go to their respective areas and live more peacefully. This represents a householder's becoming free from the harassment of the family life, family duties, and being able to devote more of his time to spiritual responsibilities, which are the real goal of life, both for himself and his family. The removal of the muddy layer on the earth is like the removal of the inconveniences of vanaprastha life. And the purification of water is like the sanctification of sannyas life by once preaching the glories of Krishna without sex desire. Hare Kṛṣṇa. So again, such a beautiful verse talking about seasons, talking about what happens in different seasons, from summer to rains and the water, and then the water comes in the rainy season, and the cleansing in the autumn. But not that, how beautifully Shukdev Goswami is connecting this to the gradual cleansing. So there are basically 4 ashramas: the brahmachari, the grihastha, the vanaprastha, and the sannyas order of life. And the goal of all the 4 ashramas is to gradually uplift ourselves to bhakti or Krishna consciousness. This is the goal of all the ashram, whether brahmachari, vanaprastha, sannyas, etc. So the title for this verse in the light of the Bhagavat book, which we are also covering parallelly, is the highest stage in spiritual life. I was hearing a class by His Holiness Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj. He made a beautiful point that anything plus Krishna equal to Vrindavan. And that's what we see here. Whether one is a brahmachari, one is a vanaprastha, one is a grihastha, one is sannyasi. There are difficulties or inconveniences in every ashram. But when we transcend those difficulties by the process of bhakti yoga, we cleanse ourselves, and then gradually we are able to transcend those. Difficulties are everywhere. Brahmacharis have their challenges, grihasthas have their own challenges, vanaprastha different, sannyas different. But the order, the idea is wherever we are, we must try to transcend. And Prabhupada beautifully gives quite a few instructions here for the grihasthas that we should, in the beginning of the, let's say one gets married. In the beginning, there are more responsibilities, like, new relationships, mother-in-law, father-in-law, then children, then gradually it expands for first 10, 15, 20 years, 25 years, expanding, right? That's the like 25 to 50 years in the ideal Vedic system. Of course, things are now topsy-turvy and every, so we'll not comment much on that. But the point is that was a principle: 0 to 25, 25 to 50, 50 to 75, and 75 to 100. Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. But of course, hardly anyone lives till 100 years. Hardly anyone gets married at the age of 25 years these days. So the things are not going as per the ideal system. And even in the Brahmachari life, who is really following the principles of Brahmachari? Very, very few rare people are doing that. But the point is, Prabhupada is mentioning, gradually one should elevate oneself by the service of Krishna so that one can minimize one material duties. It's not that, till 55, 60, 70 years, people are working hard, still the desire for money, still the desire for women, still the desire to get better house, better car, and even the last lap of life is still prominent. And no one wants to give up work. So Prabhupada is clearly is mentioning here, one should minimize the material duties at the end so that one can give more time to bhakti. One can give more time to Krishna consciousness. So one should plan one's life accordingly so that one should not be, working like an ass, as they say in the corporate world, the rat race, till the fag end of one's life. Yes, we are not saying to give up one's job or business immaturely, that's the right word, or prematurely, but at the right time, one should understand that, oh, my age is over 50 or whatever. That I'm not saying 50 is the number. As per the Vedic culture, for some it could be even 45. Even these days, people are talking about early retirement and stuff like that. Those who are not even connected to Krishna consciousness, they also feel that, oh, life is not just meant to keep working till the last breath, right? A lot of people who kind of agree with that principle. Of course, their principle is, okay, stop working at certain age, then you can enjoy fully. No worry, right? But our principle is minimize the material duties after a certain age so that we can give more time, attention, and to devotion to Krishna consciousness. That is like retirement for a devotee. More active service, more devotional service, more reading, hearing, chanting, more association of devotees, more going to yatras, etc. Because in the household life, even if we want to sometimes go for yatra, oh no, the kids have exams at that time. Sometimes we want to go for yatra, or they have exams, or they are not well. Sometimes, oh, the boss is not aligned this. Oh, I just changed my job. Oh, my new house is getting built. Oh, I got a car, I have to pay the EMI. So many reasons. But that's the point. In the Vanaprastha ashram, which we all should aspire for at certain age, after 50 or around that time, one can actively do more devotional service, and go for these yatras and take more sadhu sangha, serve devotees, chant more, etc., etc. This is the point here, connected to the cleansing. The loving service rendered to Lord Krishna frees the members of the spiritual orders from their respective troubles. So, bhakti frees one from the respective troubles. Hare Krishna. Any other thoughts, comments anyone has? any additions?
Hare Kṛṣṇa Prabhu. So if someone keeps working to support Prabhupada's cause, even after like 60s, 70s, so where he stands?
Hare Krishna. It's a very good question. So therefore we're saying that it should be done under the guidance of Guru Sadhu Shastra. Prabhupada's cause, what is Prabhupada's number one cause? To become a pure devotee ourselves, right? If we become a pure devotee, Prabhupada will be most happy with that. Absolutely no doubt in there, right? Yes, along with doing so, if we can also do a lot of other things, very nice. Very, very nice. And Prabhupada is sharing here. So there are devotees who are doing that, and all glories, all respects to them, and I'm nowhere, but we have to understand, and these steps must be taken as per Guru Sadhu Shastra. At many places, Prabhupada is mentioning in the Bhagavatam, in the Gita, that one should not work till the fag end of one's life. There are a lot of places Prabhupada is mentioning. Of course, for a devotee, work is devotional service. But the same, like we have to understand, is it my mind telling me, or is it really my Guru telling me? And sometimes it could be in the gray zone. Things which are very clear. Okay, should I go to a club and drink liquor, or should I read Bhagavad Gita? It's very clear, 0 and 1, black and white. So some decisions are very clear, right? But some decisions, like as you mentioned, this one, are not so black and white. Therefore, there is no one answer. For in some cases, this could be the right answer. In some cases, that could be the right answer. And therefore, it needs honest, humble discussion with our superiors, our Shiksha Gurus, who know us, who are mature, who are spiritually advanced, who can really tell that at this point, this will be good for you. At this point, this is not good for you, although it also seems good, but this would not help you. So, does that help?
Thank you. Sure.
Yeah. Therefore, all major decisions like this one, of course, one should take under guidance of Guru Sadhu Shastra. All critical decisions in one's life. Should I take a new job? Should I move to a new city? Should I give up my job? Should I, all these big things. Should I buy a red shirt or a yellow shirt? That's not a major thing, right? But the major things which will impact our Krishna consciousness, one should have due guidance and take wise suggestions from one's spiritual superiors. Yes, Sudhir Prabhu, please feel free to add.
No, Prabhuji, I wanted to. So, Prabhuji, here in the verse you read, right? That this represents the householder becoming free from harassment from family duties and being able to devote more time to spiritual. So, this is talking about the Vanaprastha life, Prabhuji?
These are talking about all the ashramas. But Prabhupada is here in the purport, there is more focus. I felt, maybe I could be wrong, I felt there was more focus on the Grihastha ashram. And we all relate to it much more than others. So certainly because majority of the Iskcon population is in that. So there is always Prabhupada is, focusing more on the dynamics of family, etc. It's talking about all the 4 ashramas.
So when we are in Grihastha, how can we become free, Prabhuji? we still have the responsibilities, but then doing the seva, like seva Prabhuji, you should think in that way.
In the sense, I mean, even in Grihastha ashram, there is a lot of room, right? It's not that, I mean, in the 24 hours there's a lot of freedom. In fact, the most freedom what one has is in the Grihastha ashram. Brahmacharis are living under the Gurukul, right? There's not much freedom. And Vanaprastha and sannyasis hardly are there, right? And of course, if one is a strict sannyasi, then they have a very strict systems. There is no scope for any freedom. They don't have bank account. They don't have their own home. They don't have a personal car, right? Grihasthas have a lot of freedom. Even in this time, like the job we want to pick, we have a lot of freedom. The business we want to do, we have a lot of freedom, right? How many hours you want to work, we have a lot of freedom. Should I work, should I not work? We have a lot of freedom, right? How many hours I want to devote to reading and hearing? We have that choice. So there is a lot of choice. And there is no one answer to, Prabhupada does explain the principles that one should not over-endeavor. Atyahara prayasascha. One should not over-endeavor. That's the principle which applies to everyone. But how we apply that, right? Because there is always the mind will always say, if we associate with materialistic people, I mean, they're always looking for better house, better car, better income, better this, better that. The Maya will try to trick us in different ways. So there is a lot of freedom in the Grihastha ashram in the 24 hours we have. So the idea is, if we choose spiritual life, active spiritual life, and indirect spiritual life, direct and indirect, as His Grace in Chaitanya Charan Prabhu shared this example, right? So there is direct spiritual life. For example, what we are doing now, reading Bhagavatam, chanting holy names. This is direct. Going for a Bhagavatam class, meeting Vaishnavas, honoring Krishna Prasad. These are all direct Krishna consciousness. The direct Krishna consciousness activities will reinforce or will strengthen when we go in the outside world. Now, shopping, grocery. It can be Krishna conscious, it can be totally materialistic also. But for a devotee, now devotee is a very big word, for a devotee that also is Krishna conscious, but it's an indirect Krishna conscious activity. But if we do not focus on the direct Krishna conscious activity, the indirect will go down. The indirect will go down. Krishna is everywhere. Krishna is not just in the books. I heard a very nice short talk, maybe I'll display it for everyone. That Krishna is not just in the books. Krishna is everywhere. Krishna, we must try to see Krishna everywhere. But how will we see Krishna everywhere when we try to see Krishna when he is actually there, that is in the Bhagavatam? If we are having hard time to focus on Krishna during Bhagavatam class, how will we see Krishna while watching a movie or while watching the outside nature? Very hard. So the point is that direct Krishna consciousness activities should be strengthened, which will give us energy, wisdom, guidance to see Krishna everywhere. How does that make kind of sense?
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And if we cut down our time on the direct Krishna consciousness activity and increase our time more on the material activities, guess what? We are weakening. We are weakening ourselves in the bhakti. Absolutely. It may not appear in one day. Sometimes it will appear in 1 week. Sometimes it will appear in a month. Sometimes it may appear in a year, but it will appear. Let's watch this quick video.
I was reading a quote of Martin Luther, who said that God did not just write the gospel in the Bible, but he also wrote it on the trees, on the leaves, on the flowers, in nature. And I liked that quote, that we cannot just limit spiritual life to the teachings of a book. Spiritual life is all around us. It is everywhere. The book is simply helping us to see it. It's not the book that is actually containing Krishna consciousness. Krishna is everywhere. The book helps us to perceive Krishna everywhere. So the real adventure is really beginning to see that. That is where it becomes exciting. The other day I was reading a quote.
Hare Krishna. So that was His Holiness Kadambakaran Swami Maharaj, who recently left his body a few weeks back. But I just happened to see this shot today and was very inspired. Any thoughts, comments, additions here to the discussion which we are trying?
Hare Kṛṣṇa, Prabhuji. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Maharaj.
Okay, Devki Mataji, and then after her, Philip Prabhu can speak. Please speak close to the microphone so we can hear better. Can you please speak now? We can't hear you.
I'm going to speak, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. No, I was just wondering, we are Krishna conscious even while we are doing shopping, isn't it? Because in the sense that we go on reading what is there. Suppose we buy a bottle of article, we have to read whether it is fully veg, and also even at the shopping center, we are Krishna conscious. While traveling in common transport and all, we are still Krishna conscious. What we are going to tell to people and all. So we are always Krishna conscious when we have reached certain age, Prabhuji. That's my comment. Prabhuji, back to you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. That's so true. How we speak, how we talk to others, what we see, what we don't see, how we walk, how we talk. As Arjuna said, what are the symptoms? How a devotee walks, how he talks. Thank you. But all that comes, now you're saying we are conscious about the bottle of ingredients, whatever bottle we are buying, let's say some spice, we are conscious. Why are we conscious? Because through the direct Krishna conscious activities, right, that made us conscious, right? Like you heard in the class, or some senior Vaishnava told that these ingredients are not good for us, or you read in the Bhagavad Gita, etc. So we have to continuously water on those also. That will keep our consciousness strong, healthy, and stable. Thank you. Yes, Philip Prabhu?
Hare Kṛṣṇa, Prabhuji. This may be very simple-minded of me, but I simply can't help but chant the mantra either internally or very quietly to myself when I'm doing absolutely everything. And so this way, I always feel sort of tethered to Krishna. And even when I'm at work, like, I do fire inspections for the schools, so I'm always walking around chanting. So I will do it quietly when all the kids are in class and no one can hear me, just very slightly under my breath. When someone comes, I'll just sort of very subtly shift all the way back into the inner parts of my heart mind. And then that way, oftentimes, when a child comes up to me randomly or an adult interacts with me, I sort of stop the chanting and give direct attention to this person that's come into my orbit. And because my heart mind is still resounding from the chanting, it feels like in that place, the words that come out of my mouth are just sort of an extension of the chanting coming into, conversational form with whoever came to me. So then that way the direct manifests in the indirect activities. And also when I'm shopping, I'm always chanting. When I'm doing housework, I'm always chanting. So this may be very simple-minded of me, but this is just what happens in my life. And just like the video you shared, the wind in the trees often evokes wonder in human beings. And if previous in my life, when I wasn't chanting, I would be, and I still am, enamored with the wind in the trees. But nowadays, when I'm chanting and I look at the wind in the trees, it's like the wind is blowing the trees and the mantra is sort of blowing in me. And so the trees are moving in the wind, and the entire sort of human incarnation and the sort of gross body and subtle body and spiritual body are moving in the wind of the mantra, and the mantra is the wind, and I just sort of watch everything dance in the wind. Hare Krishna.
It's absolutely amazing. Now I really trying to understand when Prabhupada says bhakti is simple for simple. It's your simplicity, you can say, or whatever, that you are able to chant, or that's the real goal of life. Kirtaniya sada hari. When we give all respect to others and expect none in return, trinadapi sunichina, taroriva saishana, amanina manadena, kirtaniya sada hari. That's one of the main verses of Lord Chaitanya. It's the mood of Krishna coming through Lord Chaitanya, that one is simple-hearted, pure, giving all respects to others, expecting none in return. That person can always chant Hare Krishna, as you said, externally and internally. So this is very good, Prabhuji. And whatever words come out of that person's mouth are always very meaningful to everyone, as you shared. So thank you. Really appreciate your devotion and your eagerness and your spiritual life. Thank you. Okay. Shall we move to the next verse? 35. Anyone would like to read? Sampada Mataji has joined after a long time. Hare Krishna. We're so
Hare
blessed.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
We're so happy and blessed that you are here. Would you be interested to join, to read?
Yeah, sure, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Sarvasam jalata hitva vireju supravarchasaha yatha tyaktai sana santa munayo mukta kilbisaha. Translation: the clouds, having given up all they possess, shone forth with purified effulgence, just like peaceful sages who have given up all material desires and are thus free of all sinful propensities. Hare Krishna.
You can read the purport as well.
Oh, okay. When the clouds are filled with water, they are dark and cover the sun's rays, just as the material mind of an impure man covers the soul shining within. But when the clouds pour down their rain, they become white and then brilliantly reflect the shining sun, just as the man who gives up all material desires and sinful propensities becomes purified and then brilliantly reflects his own soul and the supreme soul within. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, back to you.
Vibhav, thank you. Very, very interesting verse, right? So what's the context? What's the comparison here? The clouds, we're talking about the clouds here, right? Oops. These are the, let's say, the clouds. And they are dark. So the clouds are dark, you can say. Why they are dark?
Full of cloudy deserts.
Filled with water.
Water.
Yes, yes. So clouds is compared to a person here, right? And you can say the water. What is that compared to? Which is full of
Desires.
desires, ego, which is the seat of desires. And what happens when they are, so you can say let's say, dark clouds, let's say, is compared to impure person, materialist, etc. Right? And then they become clear white clouds. What's that compared to? Pure state or sage, right? A pure sage or a devotee. So that water is basically desires, sinful activities, etc. So that means the natural state is pure, but somehow these impurities cover our consciousness. These impurities, these sinful activities, these temptations, the false ego, etc., we get covered up and we're not able to see the clear sun. The sun rays don't, pass through. Just as the material mind of an impure man covers the soul shining within. It's another analogy here. So the sun rays, or the sun is compared to here, the soul. Right? So the brilliance of the soul, or the purity of the soul, is kind of covered by these darkness of false ego, the darkness of desires, the darkness of lust, anger, greed, etc. And when it is gone, when the impurities are gone, then the cloud becomes clear, and guess what happens? The sun the rays can be easily, pass through because it's clear. It's a transparent via medium. That's another lesson always shared, that we have to become clear, transparent via medium. Whatever the message is coming from Krishna, from spiritual masters, we should just become a transparent via medium. So when we become pure or free from contamination, then when the clouds pour down the rain, they become white and then brilliantly reflect the shining sun. Just as a man who gives up the material desires and sinful propensities become purified and then brilliantly reflects his own soul and supreme soul within. So the sun is also shared here as the Atma and the Paramatma, like the sun, Krishna Surya Sama, Param Atma, the supreme soul. Then they'll be clearly reflected. Then the message will be clear. So that's the analogy in this verse. Any other thoughts, comments, anyone wants to share or add? The clouds, the sun.
Hare Kṛṣṇa, Prabhuji. I'm just wondering if the sun and the clouds were like in my heart, how would that change the landscape of your analogy, or would it change? I'm just sorry if that's a weird question. Hare Kṛṣṇa.
The sun and the cloud are in our heart. Did I get it right?
That's correct.
Just trying to understand the question a little more. The sun here is the soul and the super soul. The sun rays are the brilliance or the light of that. The clouds.
Okay, so I think maybe my question is like, so Krishna is the Paramatma, which is the sun, and so how does the Jivatman relate to the sun in this analogy? I think maybe is a better way to ask that. Is it the clouds?
No. The Jivatma is not the cloud. Let's read the purport one more time. It will help. So here the analogy, material mind of an impure man covers the soul shining within. So the soul and super soul have the same qualities, Satchid Ananda. They both are shining, they both are brilliant, they both are amazing, right? So we are not even able to perceive the presence of the soul, or we the soul, right? Or its brilliant qualities, or its amazing nature. Neither we are able to perceive the own soul and the supreme soul within. When we are covered with the clouds. And what are the clouds? The clouds are sinful propensities, material desires, false ego, etc. When this is cleansed, then we are able to perceive, I am the spirit soul, and I am part and parcel of the Supreme Krishna, who is also present in me, who is also present along with me at all times. We're able to perceive that. We're able to see that clearly. We're able to see that brilliance. We're able to feel that presence. So this is soul and super soul. We're able to feel and that pass. So there's no like blockage, right? Now, if we consider this from another perspective, so there is the soul, right? And then there is super soul also, Satchidananda, both, right? Or we call this Paramatma and Atma, right? They both are together. But there is layers of coverings. So the first covering is the gross body, right? Which we see. Then the subtle body is also there. So different layers are covering this Atma and Paramatma. And the main coverings. Then there is also, you can say, finer ahankar, right? Then there are subtle things. So there's a basically thick covering. It may not be, we will not be able to perceive that. So these coverings primarily of lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, illusion, false ego, bad habits, sinful activities, then it does not let us to clearly see the light or the brilliance, the directions. Even the voice comes, but we are so in tune to the outside voice that the inside voice is not perceptible because of the bad coverings or a thick layer. But what is the process of bhakti? Is to uncover, gradually uncover these layers, right? The more we uncover, the more perceptible the voice of soul and the super soul will be. The more perceptible the connection will be. And how does that happen? That happens the process of bhakti yoga. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Does that make sense? Or
Hare Kṛṣṇa, Prabhuji, thank you. It makes me think that these clouds in my own sort of gross and subtle body, so the process of bhakti and spiritual life is to let those clouds be evaporated and the darkness in the clouds made for the sun to shine through. And then when we see other people, is it like when they're sort of covered up in their subtle and gross bodies, it's almost like they have like sort of stormy skies layered on top of their sort of spiritual body. And then when somebody is like a sage, if we were to come across it like guru or a sage, like the sort of sky of their subtle body and the sky of their gross body are just pure white clouds, and so we can immediately feel the warmth of the sun of their spiritual body and their union with Krishna. Is that sort of, am I understanding correctly?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And then we can perceive it even in just in the presence of great souls. Don't we feel so happy, delightful, joyful? Right? Even just in their mere presence, forget about talking to them, forget about hearing from them. Just in their mere presence, we feel very, very ecstatic. Right? Because they don't have any coverings. They don't have any hidden agendas. They are true well-wishers of everyone. And therefore, they are pure messengers. They are truly exhibiting that Satchid Ananda light, or that Satchidananda principle, that Satchidananda brilliance, the original as mentioned here, then brilliantly reflects his own and supreme soul within. So they're brilliantly reflecting that in every exchange, in every word, or in just their mere presence makes one feel that connection. I'm sure all of us must have experienced it at some point in our lives, right? And any thoughts?
Prabhuji called that Advaita, like own soul and supreme soul within.
Advaita means two, Advaita means one, Advaita. So we're not here talking, that's a completely different thing, Mataji. Advaita, that's basically, you know, the principle. Some people which say, oh, they are same. Some people say they are different. That's a totally like different conversation. We talk about achintya bheda bhed over there, that it's simultaneously oneness and difference. But that's not the topic of this verse. Yeah. This verse is basically to unmask, which we have, or uncover those dark clouds, or to clear so that we can truly reflect what we are, and that is Satchidananda.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Very well.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you. You clarified and made me understand much better. Thank you.
Krishna. Just repeating my own clarification, but thank you for your thoughtful comments and questions. Let's read one more verse. Swati Mataji, would you like to read? Are you in a position to read?
Yes, Prabhuji, I can read. Text 36. Girayo mumushchustayam vachinna mumuchu vishivam yata jnanamritam kale jnanino dadate navaha. Translation and purport by Śrīla Prabhupada's disciples, Śrīla Prabhupada and his disciples. Kitchen. During this season, the mountains sometimes released their pure water and sometimes did not, just as experts in transcendental science sometimes give the nectar of transcendental knowledge and sometimes do not. Purport. The first part of this chapter described the rainy seasons, and the second part has been dealing with the autumn season, which begins with the rain stops. When the rain stops. During the rainy season, water always flows from the mountains. During the autumn, the water sometimes flows and sometimes does not. Similarly, great saintly teachers sometimes speak expansively on spiritual knowledge and sometimes they are silent. The self-realized soul is closely in touch with the Supreme Soul, and according to his desires, a competent spiritual scientist may or may not describe the absolute truth, depending on the specific circumstances. Hare Krishna.
share something from this verse? Thank you for reading, Mataji.
Here again we see how you were explaining about the previous verse, how the soul and the super soul is covered by the mind ego, the mind intelligence and false ego, how it covers the true nature of the soul is again nicely explained here also, and only the self-realized soul can understand and be in contact with the Lord, is what I understood from this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mataji. The title for this verse in the light of Bhagavat is Milk Poison by the Tongue of the Serpent. You may wonder, how does the milk and serpent come here? Because there's no mention of milk, serpent, etc. But the point is that Prabhupada is mentioning over there in the light of Bhagavat that there are certain professional reciters of Bhagavatam. They want to speak Rasalila, the esoteric pastimes, to anyone and everyone, whoever gives more money, right? That's their principle. They do not care for spiritual reformation. So the point here is the experts in transcendental science, reading from the translation, sometimes give the nectar of knowledge and sometimes do not. So as spiritualists, we must be aware of this principle, when to speak, when not to speak. It's also very important. When to speak and when not to speak. Very, very important. Whom to speak, what to speak, when not to speak. All these are the signs, there's the signs of a great, mature devotee. That we do not speak everything to everyone, right? Srila Prabhupada would not, based on his audience, even like Narada Muni, he would give the message according to the capacity of the audience. He had a disciple like Mrigari, who was a hunter. He gave a different message to him, that you, instead of half killing, you fully kill them. He had a disciple, Prahlad Maharaj. He gave a different message, pure bhakti. He had a different message for Shukadev, Srila Vyasadeva. He chastised, what have you given? You have done this khichdi, you have made so many scriptures, this and that, but forgot to mention the unlawed glories of the Lord. Why don't you just write about it? So very heavy. So when to speak, what to speak, when not to speak are the qualities of a great acharya or a great. They're not like professional reciters. So one should not accept the message, as Prabhupada says this often, one should not hear from the professional reciters whose agenda is wealth, followers, opposite sex, and false prestige, etc., etc. That's like the milk touched by the serpent. Milk is very healthy, gives a lot of benefits. But the same milk, if the serpent touches it, it becomes poison. So the serpent is basically a professional reciter, and the milk here is the pure teachings of the Bhagavatam, Gita, etc. They may speak Bhagavatam, they may pick the verses of the Bhagavatam, but if one does not have the right intention, if one does not have the right agenda, if one does not have the right mood, and if one is not in the bona fide parampara, then the same message is basically will become a cause of spiritual destruction. So in short, Prabhupada speaks this oftentimes, that one should not take the milk touched by the poison. So we covered that. So in short, we should learn when to speak, whom to speak, when not to speak, etc. And be mindful of time, place, circumstances. Like, for example, we meet first time a person, distributing books, and if they, let's say, even if they have a cigarette in their hand, we don't say, hey, you are a fool number one, you're wasting your life, there's no one more, you're going to hell because you are drinking cigarette, you'll get cancer, this, that. Will they, even if it is true, let's say, but we don't need to speak that, right? We can just share, okay, sir, please take this book, it will help you. Please try to chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. Please take this prasad, right? That's what Prabhupada did. His audience in the beginning were very kind of externally, they had all wrong habits. But Prabhupada didn't demean or just say, oh, you are malechas, or you are yavanas, or you have no good habits, or you will all go to hell. No. Prabhupada just fanned the spark. Prabhupada came here to fan the spark, and gradually he gave the pure teachings of Bhagavatam at the right time, and as they mature, Prabhupada gave deeper and deeper understandings. So in short, an expert transcendentalist knows this. The example is like the season, the mountains sometimes release their pure water and sometimes not. So the Acharya is like the mountain, strong, tough, right? Vajrat api kathorat kusumat api komalat. So the determination, or the analogy is like a mountain here. Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Any thoughts? Any other comments, thoughts, questions anyone has before we pause for today?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. In light of that, I just wanted to offer my gratitude again for your teaching and your guidance. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dandavad.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Mataji. I'm not teaching. I'm just reading. We are reading together. We're all reading together. I'm just trying to repeat from the Bhagavatam and the light of Bhagavat, which we're just studying together. So I'm grateful for all of your association and enthusiasm. Grantraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Purana ki jai, Jagat Guru Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Kaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namah. Thank you again. Hare Krishna. Jai Śrīla Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.